Hi, my name is Guy Lawrence and thanks for tuning into my podcast today. If you're enjoying these conversations and you want to check out more of this transformational work, be sure to come back to guylawrence.com.au and join me as we go further down the rabbit hole. Enjoy the show. Caroline, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You know, before we dive into any conversation with the movie and everything, because like I said, I watched it a couple of weeks ago and I just loved it, and reached out to you instantly to try and get you on the show. I do ask everyone on the show, if you were on an airplane right now and you sat next to a complete stranger and they asked you what you did for a living, what would you say?
It depends if he's cute enough. I will give him the long version or vice versa. I'm kidding. No. For me, everything started at a very young age. I was 5 years old. I realized that I could see the subtle energy. I would just look at someone and I could see what was going on with them. I could see what happened to cause that problem that they had, what was going to happen to them the next day. I would see things like, on the other side of the wall, things like that. Yeah.
Were people open to you saying that and sharing that, even through your entire life?
Well, actually, I didn't say anything when I was younger because I thought, oh, everybody does that. So I didn't think I was anything special. And so I didn't really share it, and I could even see beings, spirit beings, and talk to them. And so because of that, because I thought it was very natural and normal, I just never shared it. But that got me kind of asking the questions like, how does it work? And later on, as I grew up, I realized that, wait, I could see the problem they had, but they couldn't. Or I could see something happen to them the next day, but they couldn't. Therefore, I'm tapping into something, And so how does that work, and how come some people see and others don't? And so I got into the field of consciousness science, the mechanics of consciousness. How does it all work? What are the parameters within which we exist? What is the rules of the game? But also, is there any science behind it or what have you? So for the longest time, for almost 20 years, I developed a methodology for energy medicine, energy healing, and consciousness expansion for 20 years. I lectured and taught workshops and trained a ton of people all around.
That's amazing.
And so, and so because it was, we were getting very, very good results. So, we would have people heal from things, and there's no question. I mean, they're working on it. The next day, the blood test shows, the result, the x-ray or what have you. So it was very clear that it was because of this work. And so this was validation after validation after validation, that at one point it was like, wait, this is working. Energy medicine works. There is something, even though mainstream science doesn't really understand it, doesn't mean that it's not real. So then I started working with scientists because I wanted to not just validate that it was real, because I knew it was, and many people know it is, but I wanted to kind of have a visual, kind of measurable effect that people could look at and say, oh, it is because of her intention. It is because of that. And so I started working with different scientists doing different experiments, with water, with DNA, with telekinesis. And we were getting incredible results, repeatable results. And that's why after a while, I was like, we need to share this with the world. And film is probably the best medium to do that.
It certainly is, isn't it? I got to interject there for a sec, just to cover, like, energy medicine. How would you describe that to the layman if they're hearing that for the first time? Because it does seem foreign, and I remember thinking back, energy medicine, my views are completely changed now, but I remember my old self going, I just don't get it,
Yeah. So, well, basically, you're basically moving energy just through intention or through light or through anything except something that is physical, meaning a drug that you ingest or, like some sort of something that you uh, put inside your body.
Got you, yeah.
So you are, for example, if you have a migraine headache, so just by moving the energy around your head, but more importantly, it's finding the root cause. So when you find the root cause and you change that, then the headache goes away. So I didn't touch you, you didn't eat anything, you didn't ingest anything, you didn't take a drug, and yet the headache went away. So when you do that over and over, and then you do it on your stomach, and you realize it works, we call it energy medicine. So
Got it.
there's different kinds of actually methodology, but even actually, I take that back a little bit, because even acupuncture is considered energy medicine, and you are putting needles, or homeopathic drugs. Medicine is also energy medicine, but it's still working with the energy system of the body.
Got
So
it.
what people call chakra, but I think it's much more than that. It's not just the chakra. It's not just the meridians. There are all kinds of energy points within the body. If you know how to activate them, whether through a needle or just through intention, you are triggering that mechanism through the energetic system of the body.
Yeah, beautiful. And I've interviewed enough scientists on you myself now. I only had, I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, Donald Hoffman. He wrote a book called The Case Against Reality recently. Incredible person. And I just think of everything now as vibrational in its essence, even ourselves. And I kind of, to me, trying to get my head around energy medicine and how it works, would it be fair to say that we're starting to influence the energy makeup of ourselves, that we are part of it anyway, and maybe creating more coherence or more harmony within energy that might not be moving? Is that a fair way?
Yeah, absolutely. Because energy medicine is vibrational medicine. You are basically targeting the energy points of the body, or working with the energy system and changing its vibration. Whether, again, it's just through intention or light or sound or acupuncture, you're working with the vibrational energy of the body. And so people don't realize that everything is energy, and everything therefore has a vibration. Even your thoughts and your emotions are a form of energy. The fact that you don't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. It's a different form of energy that you through your physical eyes cannot see, but they have a vibrational frequency. And then when you're thinking or having these strong emotions, you are emitting those frequencies. And where do they go? They go inside the cells. And so if you keep thinking consciously or subconsciously, I'm not good enough, or, I hate my job, all of these thoughts and these strong emotions are emitting that frequency, and they're going inside the cell, changing the vibration of the cell.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's mind blowing. I just going off on a slight tangent here, but I speak of, so somebody I do a lot of work with, my dear friend Matt, and he's been working with sound for 17 years. And I had this experience where I first was exploring his work, and I had a huge amount of emotion and grief released from the passing of my dad from my heart after several hours of doing his work. And it was just profound. I didn't even realize I was holding that. And it was part of me. And I felt it actually leave the body just from using sound, which is energy. It's mind-blowing.
That's exactly it. You just said it. So the thoughts of sadness and grief towards your father, you had those thoughts, you had those emotions, but once you had them, they didn't disappear, because energy, once created, cannot be destroyed. Einstein said that. And so you're creating that form of energy, and it goes somewhere, and you find it in the cells. And that's so each person has, let's say, a weak point. So some people will store that energy in the liver, others in the heart, others in the throat, or what have you. And then if you do that long enough, then after a while, your cells get clogged up. There's so much information, which is this added, thoughts and beliefs that eventually slow down the vibration, because you're putting so much stuff in the cell. So it's if it's supposed to be rotating this way at 734 hertz, all of a sudden you put more stuff, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and then it goes down to 100, 150. So you do that for a long time, the cell is not behaving, it's not functioning at its optimal speed.
Amazing.
And that's how you get sick.
And the other thing that really fascinates me about this, Caroline, is that we become so familiar with our familiar states and the way we feel and think and our body. We just accept that to be how it should be. And it's not the case, and you only need a little shift or a little taste of this and go, wow, and then experience. And then that's what happened to me. It just changes the game. And then I think once you get that hook, it can really open up a whole new paradigm and a whole new world,
Yeah, and yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, which is why I loved your film so much, because you really bring in intangible experiments and reputable people and scientists that are dedicating their life to this work, and it's clear to see that, like you say, these things become repeatable and showing, and and you leave after watching the film like really pondering and wondering. I wanted to learn it all, by the way. I'm like, how can I just digest this as quickly as possible, because it brings that excitement into it. And I think quite often we can be so wary of it or dismissive of it, and there's so much joy to be had from it as well, which I think we can forget.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my purpose with the film, is that people will get re-energized, because, they sort of believe that the mind, well, a lot of people do now, that the mind creates your reality, the mind affects your body, your health. Positive thinking helps you keep your vibration high. So we've been hearing about this, and a lot of people believe it and do meditation. But what I wanted to explore is not just keep talking about it, is more showing, okay, well, when I'm thinking positive, how do I know it is affecting? I'm just taking it just because I believe. But so I think no one's really put it in a film format where we are showing through live experiments on camera that when I say to the water, I want to raise the pH, it does. So that sort of experiment validates that my thought is doing something. It's not just kind of an abstract thing.
Exactly. And, watching that experiment, instantly I thought, well, God, I'm 70 to 80% water. And imagine what that's doing to my own pH if, we're thinking a certain way constantly. I've got to ask you as well, when you decided to make this film, how the hell did you go about it? Because you've got a blank canvas. You're like, I want to get this message out there. Like, where did you start? What did you do?
Well, like I said, because I've been in this field for so long, I really kind of knew the subject inside out. But to actually make a film, you still have to have a storyline. I mean, you have to kind of lead the audience from point A to point B, and who are the people that you select, So the thing is, when you do a documentary, you don't have a script, you have an outline. So that I knew the types of subjects that I wanted to address in the film, but then it's like a puzzle at the end. I don't know how much people know about documentary filmmaking. It's very, very difficult. It's not so easy. I mean, I don't know about others, but the way we put it together, there's, just to give you an idea, in this film, there's over 2,500 edits, to slice it all together, to know exactly how to transition from one segment to another, and to keep the attention of the person, and to make a logical point that people will go, it's very difficult. And so, but I had already like an outline, you know. And then what happens in documentary filmmaking is that, let's say I'm interviewing you, right? So the subject is about vibration, but you may be, so, and it's part of my outline, but maybe you'll say something that, because it's spontaneous, that we are not planning on. For example, you start talking about sound, let's say. Well, we don't really have sound, but it's very, very fascinating. So now we want to incorporate that. So what I'm saying is, you have a basic outline, but you have to keep changing and adjusting to make it as powerful and focused as possible. So it's quite difficult, but eventually, because you have a strong kind of, you know, direction, you end up getting the best pieces from different people. And but I also, regardless, I wanted to include specific experiments. Okay. So I wanted to do the pH because I wanted to validate that when we think, we're affecting the body, because we are mostly water. So I definitely wanted to include that. I wanted to include the one on DNA. I wanted to include telekinesis. And so these were definitely part of the story. But the crazy one was the blindfold one. I mean, that was like, when I saw the kids, I said, if this is real, because I had not done it before myself.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so that was like 3 years ago. And I said, if this is real, then this means that our consciousness can pretty much program our brain to do anything. And I wanted to also do it scientifically. So that to me ended up being the best part, I think.
I do too. So maybe we should dive into that and explain what happens, because when I pressed play on the documentary a couple of weeks back, my wife, because we've just had a baby daughter, she's 9 weeks old, and
oh, congratulations!
Thank you. It's just been incredible, and she fell asleep and was like, right, I really want to watch this documentary. Are you up for it? And she's like, yeah, my wife, you know, she's a naturopath, she's very open to everything, and the opening scene was with the children. And I think they were playing ping pong with the blindfolds on, and instantly it was like, what? No.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, that really even took us by surprise, you know. So maybe you should dive into that a little bit and explain what happened and what the hell is going on.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I was like, this looks incredible, but is this real? Because that's what kicks in. Like, how is it even possible? So I found them, you know, it was online. I found it online, you know, and I called the, you know, the instructor there in the UK. And I said, I want to come visit you. And so I myself was there. So I'm only speaking about, because there's all kinds of things on YouTube or whatever. So I can't speak forever. I can speak for all the groups that I have personally investigated and visited, and the techniques that I've done myself. So these kids, Guy, so they put these blindfolds on, and, you know, look, they're very thick on the side.
Totally.
You know, so it's not like a little kind of, you know, ribbon or something. And so they are reading, they're playing, they're, you know, playing ball, you know. I would hold up a random thing so that nothing was prepared or rehearsed. And when the first time I put the blindfold on, it's totally black, dark. You cannot see anything. And so because of that, because I was so impressed, I wanted to see, okay, who else out there is doing this? So I found other groups, you know, Germany, Russia, like in the movie, also in the US, Canada.
Utah, was it?
Yeah, Utah. Yeah. But I realized that different people use different technique, but they all get to the same result. So some people, for example, use this with the eyes open. Others use it with the eyes completely taped shut, and they have this on top.
Wow.
It's crazy. And so, but at the end of the day, they could, you know, move around and read and do all kinds of stuff. And so because the film is based on science, I said, what kind of science can we bring to that? So there are scientists in Italy who are able to put a device inside the mask when somebody was reading, and the device showed 0 light photons.
Huh.
So as you know, our visual system works with light. If there's no light, there's no, you can't see. And even if there's a little bit of light coming from the side, the way it works is the light has to reflect on the object for you to see, not this way. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And in front of you, you still can't see anything. So, like you're saying, these kids were playing ping pong and, riding bikes and
You could have blinkers on and struggle, let alone completely being blindfolded.
exactly. So that's the science, because I wanted to again demonstrate this isn't a magic trick. This isn't a circus act. This is real. And also, not only that there was no light, but the brain waves showed that the brain waves behaved as if they were actually reading, as opposed to not being able to see light. And their pupils also were totally dilated, meaning there's no light. And so that's how we were able to say, okay, well, this is real. There's nothing, nobody's faking. And because the implication of that methodology is crazy. It means that, wait, blind people can be trained to see again, visually impaired folks. So that's the reason why I really, really wanted to include this in the film, but again, show as much real validation as possible.
Yeah, and it's mind-blowing. So how are they doing it? Because you touched on, I was watching, researching a little bit last night, and you touched on a really powerful point about the power of belief when it comes to this exercise. Do you mind delving into that a little bit? Because that just translates then into everything that we do about what we believe in ourselves, our actions, and what's possible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the first thing, is if you don't believe this is going to work, I mean, don't even try. You don't have to be like, super believer, but at least, the idea that this could be possible somehow, that's good enough. So, but the more you believe, the more you see yourself doing it, the more you visualize, the more you know this is very possible, the faster you will be able to learn. And so, for example, with kids, they learn so quickly. They put the blindfolds on and you tell them, okay, well, what am I holding in my hand? They'll just tell you, but if you do that to an adult, they'll be like, I can't see anything. How am I supposed to see? I will never get this. And all the mind chatter, starts to get in the way. They get in the way. So we just taught a class online, and kids, after 2 sessions, they were able to read and do puzzles. But for adults, it's probably going to take like 8 sessions.
Wow. So adults anyone can learn this.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but because what I'm saying is because the kids believe anything is possible. It's all about believing it's already happening and they can do this. That's why they're so successful.
Amazing. So what does that mean? Does that mean we're actually seeing with our brain, not our eyes?
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then this means that you can do all sorts of things. Your consciousness can reprogram your brain to do whatever you want it to do. And in fact, some blindfolds, for example, folks don't even have an eye. Like, for example, there's one gentleman that had lost his eye from an explosion or something. And so what I'm saying is, even if the visual system is damaged, you're still seeing. So how are you seeing? So the brain is finding other ways to see, but it won't do it on its own. You have to tell it. And that you is your consciousness, it's your belief, it's your intention, it's your passion, your desire. That's what's gonna tell the brain, figure out a way, but I want to see.
Wow. There's almost like a 4-minute mile barrier happening right now, isn't there, with this kind of work, where if there's enough people really starting to do this, it's gonna shift the fundamental beliefs in a lot of people, because we're so used to seeing the world through our five senses and just taking it as that's it, and we forget that we're actually putting our own perceptions behind that as well, and our own belief systems, that we just take it as it is and never even think about it, so it's incredible.
Yeah, and it's a shame because especially for kids, there's so much potential. Can you imagine if the kids, since we're kids, so I grew up this way, like I said, because naturally, I don't know, that was in my case, but many, many children have the same abilities, but they lose them because, the parents aren't paying attention, or at school, maybe you're embarrassed or something. So, but imagine if, since, the kids, as they are discovering that, wait, I can sense things beyond my human body, or I'm feeling this way. Wait, let me just concentrate and make my tummy ache go away. I do this with kids all the time, and they just do it. They just do it. They say, they tell me, like, I have a tummy ache. And I said, well, have you tried talking to your tummy? And then they said, what do I say? Just tell it to go away. Tell it you want to feel good right now. And they just do it. And it happened. So think about, instead of, what's wrong, you're going to be okay. Or here's maybe not pills, but, so I think there's so much potential that we're missing
It's
out on.
massive, because we so unknowingly put our beliefs on others, don't we? Constantly, whether it be child
Yes.
or other people, and this really opens up a whole new possibility. Another question that just dropped in there for me, then I'd love to ask you, is when you were having these experiences as a child, did you stay open the whole time, or were you closed off at any stage? Because you often hear about children having all these different experiences, but then closing down because something or someone might have shut it down for them. What was it like for you?
I think I was open the whole time, but at times I think because I could feel connected to a group of spirit beings. I felt like they were kind of helping me with this whole thing. And so,
Wow.
I felt like sometimes so that connection was never severed. That's when it happens at 5. It stayed open, but I think in some, like maybe for a few years at a time or a few months at a time, I felt like I was supposed to concentrate on whatever, like school or whatever was going on in my life. So I felt like it's not that they left, but that wasn't the most important thing that I had to focus on. But it was almost like when they came back, I kind of knew, I could feel like, okay, for example, I'll give you an example. Well, I was 10 and I went to a Catholic school. That was whatever, the upbringing. And I remember, so between 5 and 10, it was kind of on and off, that connection, that those experiences where I would see things about people, I would hear their thoughts and things like that, on and off. And then maybe nothing for a year or two. Then at the age of 10, I'm sitting in class, right? It was catechism class, right? And all of a sudden I hear the teacher say something like, well, as humans, we will never know who God is. We can never connect with God because we are sinners or something like that. And I remember I had such a reaction, in I was so angry because she was telling this to all the kids. And I felt so sorry for the kids. I didn't want them to believe what she was saying because I knew that we were all connected to Creator, to our divinity, to our spirituality. And maybe you don't know God like, like a person, but that connection stays with us, and we're all have this divine nature, because I've had experienced it since I was 5. So I was so mad for what she said. I got up and I left the class.
Wow.
And yeah, I was like so angry. So I started talking to my, my connection. I said, can you please do something so the children don't believe her? They all have the same connection. Please do something. And this is where they kind of came back. Like, I felt like, you are right. Like, you are connected. Don't ever forget that. This is how every child is connected. So what I'm saying is, like, that connection and that sort of being between the two worlds kept coming in and out for a long time.
Yeah,
Does that make
amazing.
sense?
Yeah, no, totally, 100%. It's quite incredible. It's funny, like, because like I was speaking to you off, I've had certain experiences and I've connected to a unified field. Like in
Yeah,
my mind now, it's a very tangible, real thing. But then there's, as an adult, there's a part of me that gets stressed and tired and, loses it, and then I find myself doubting myself as well, in just old conditioning. And it's just it's a fascinating journey. And I just find that as long as we remain open to it and have a practice and explore and continue to stay that way, the connection tends to deepen and open and unfold more for us as we go. But we've got to just be open to it. And that's the thing. I'm hoping why I have a podcast, and no doubt why you have a movie, is just trying to get a message out there so people can actually be open to it and experience something, because it's life changing. And if everybody had a taste of it, I think the world would be a very different place right now.
exactly. That's why it was so important to me. Whatever I communicated with and connected with was so beautiful. It was like unconditional love. So, and I wanted everybody to have the same, to know what that is, which is what you felt. But you're right. So you think that when you're not connected with the unified field or creation or source, you think it's not there anymore. You feel like, wait, did that go away? And so that's why at one point I started to make a conscious, like, I knew they were never gone, but I wanted to kind of know exactly how to switch it and bring it back. And so that during the training that I was doing, for, like I said, I developed methodologies for energy medicine, but also consciousness. And I developed a whole meditation technique. And so I created one specific meditation that kind of brings you back in this alignment. I called it connecting to source. And so
Beautiful.
I kept doing it. So it's very, very specific. It kind of plugs you back into that source and aligns your brain channels to kind of stay that way. And so I realized that the more you do it, it almost like your cells start to recognize that place, that signature. So you do it enough. It's, by the way, it's free of charge on my website. So
All right.
anybody can go and do it. And so, but you're kind of programming your brain to recognize that frequency. And so you do this nonstop for, like, 30 days, 21 days. It's only 7 minutes long. It was longer, but I made it like short so people, do it. And so enough time that you're training that muscle, so eventually you just know how to click back into it, and it works.
Amazing. I'll
Yeah.
be sure to link in the show notes for that. I'll take that for a test drive myself. Sounds fantastic. And
Yeah, it's free of charge.
that's very generous of you. I think one other question, can everybody do this? Anybody?
1000%.
Yeah.
Anybody can do this. And that's the reason why in the film, first of all, I didn't want to be the only one. I showed kids, adults from all different countries, all different backgrounds, not necessarily people who were, just doing that sort of meditation or that sort of, and also, as you know, we invited guests on the spot. We would teach them in 2 hours to do telekinesis on camera, um, remote viewing also.
What is Can you explain those two things actually? What is telekinesis and remote viewing? just
Yeah,
in case.
telekinesis is the ability to move a physical object without touching it, without any physical contact. So we start the training with a little piece of paper. I mean, that's how you start, you know. And, you know, you kind of, you know, put your hand around it. And of course, it's the magnetic field in your hand that is affecting the paper. So you start to move it, but it's really just to make the connection. But then you do it under a glass. So you're kind of, you know, a little bit moving away from it, and then you train that way, and then you move your hands completely away from the glass, then you put two glass over it, and then you gradually train yourself to connect with the physical object at a distance. Of course, I ended up doing it also long distance, you know, so because
Wow.
once it works, it works. It's, you know, everything is entangled, so there's no time space. So that's what telekinesis is. And so of course you start with a piece of paper, but the idea is if it works with a piece of paper, then it works from far away. If it works under a Faraday cage, you know, meaning completely sealed container, there is no electromagnetism, there's no temperature, there's no air molecule. So how is it working? How are you able to move it? So your consciousness is still able to create air molecules or move the few multiply air molecules. So in other words, you're still interacting with the physical object, even you're very far away or it's totally insulated. So the idea of demonstrating this, and like I said, we invited someone who had never done it before. And in 2 hours, not only that, don't forget we're filming. So we have cameras, we have light, we have all kinds of magnetism, distraction. We have people running in the, you know, like the production assistant is bringing lunch and, you know, so even with all these distractions, you know, she learned it in 2 hours and she was like nailing it. Incredible.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible. And you spoke about remote viewing as well, which is another fascinating topic. Can you explain what that is, please, for anyone that might not know?
Yeah, so remote viewing is the ability to see at a distance remotely what is happening. So there are different techniques also. I chose the way the government teaches it, because at one point in the 70s, 80s, even before, but there's a program that ran in the government called the Stargate program. And basically the Russians were training soldiers to become so intuitive that they were able to see at a distance. So of course they're going to use it for military purposes. So they were training them to spy. So the US said, wait, if they're doing that, we should be doing that. And so they started training soldiers to basically be able to see remotely where the missiles are, what's happening I mean, for military purposes. But that program ran for 20 years.
Wow.
With millions of dollars poured into it, which tells you that it was real. They're not going to spend all this time and all this money if it wasn't working. And so that's the reason why I wanted to include that kind of broad credibility to the subject, that many institutions other than governments were using this for all kinds of reasons. And so basically, the idea is you have because of entanglement, everything is connected and entangled. You have the ability to basically, your consciousness can tap into any point within time and space. And so that's what we demonstrated in the film. So again, we invited somebody who had never done it before, and she learned it in 2 hours, same thing. And I went to a remote location, and she was trying to use this technique to figure out where I was and what I was doing. Now, don't forget, I could be at a McDonald's, you know, I could be at a gym, I could be anywhere, but she was picking up things exactly the way I was doing them. So I would I was at a park, so I would like hold bars. There was a carousel, you know, she picked up like a round thing. She picked up the sound of kids laughing. She picked up a tree. I mean, it was incredible how successful that was.
And she'd never done it before.
Never done it before.
Wow. It just goes to show, like you said, how we're all connected. I often think of ourselves like an iceberg now. You know, the metaphor of 20% and 80%, but the 20% is having the physical experience, and then our consciousness is like the 80% that's beyond ourselves that we don't give credit to and we don't put our awareness to, you know,
Exactly.
and then these all give weight to those these beliefs and thoughts that are around it. You know, it's amazing. Well, what is your hope for the movie moving forward?
Well, exactly what you were saying, that anybody can do this. That's the point. And so I'm hoping that people will stop worrying about, is this real? Is it, what are people going to say? You know, is this mainstream? It's like, who cares? Like, this is something that's free. It's you, it's your mind is free. So why not start to empower yourself and just give it a try? So next time, you know, you saw the experiment with the water, you know, changing the pH. Next time you have a stomach ache, well, just try, you know, focus on your stomach and see if you can change the pH. If it doesn't work, nothing happened, you know. So what I'm saying is, I think people are still so nervous about, you know, like trying anything like this or believing not, and who's the doctor and who's the, I mean, we brought enough credibility, I think, in terms of scientists in the movie. I mean, we have people from Harvard, Stanford, UCLA. I mean, this is, you know, no joke in terms of
Totally.
scientific credibility. And so I'm just hoping that people, and also I think the film is quite entertaining because we're doing everything live. So I'm hoping people will just watch it and just relax with it and say, I want to try this. I want to do this, at least, you know, with their kids or something like that. So that's my hope, because the sooner we do this, the sooner we empower ourselves. You know, we start to feel, because, you know, those kids, you know, Guy, I have to tell you, the ones doing the blindfolds and other things, when you speak to them, it's not just about, oh, it's a trick that I can do, watch me what I can do. It's incredible. Like I say, well, Justin, the little one who's 7 years old, Justin, so how are you really seeing with the blindfolds? Like, how are you seeing? And then he goes, but it's normal because energy is everywhere. I am everywhere, so I can see everywhere. And then he would tell me about the planet where he came from before being born here. And
Wow.
he tells me that he can speak to Jesus anytime he wants. Just like without any, you know, of course, people will say, oh, kids have a good imagination. Yes, it's true. But you can feel, you know, you can feel that those kids are wise in a certain way. And I think it's all because they've been cultivating this, all these abilities. It empowers you, gives you confidence. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think you just said the key thing then is about being empowered, confident, living with less fear. If you really start to learn and look into that, because that's probably been the biggest fundamental shift for me, is so many fears have eroded. And knowing that there's more to this than meets the eye, and having this connection to more of source, it's allowed me to really become aware of my own conditioning and move through that, as opposed to it hold me back. And I can only imagine what that would do to somebody that's been doing this from the like age of 5 years old, like having that all the way through the life, instead of somebody like me having shifts in their 30s to then really grasp it and run with it. You know, it's just incredible. It's just incredible.
I think for me, it was the reason why it happened to me is for me to just kind of master it and be able to talk about it, and as an experience, not somebody who taught, who learned it from somebody else. And so I had to live it. I have to
Mm.
know how it works and why sometimes it doesn't work. Oh yeah, because the vibration's not there. Oh, the alignment's not there. So I think this was the reason why. But the thing is, guy, everybody is connected. Everybody has that potential. It's almost like, you know, the radio is always playing, you know, it's there, right there. But if you don't turn it on, you know, then it's going to keep playing and you will never benefit from it. So if in your case, it started when you were 30, other people younger, most people much older, you know, when they realize that nothing else is working. And
Yeah.
so, you know, and but maybe it also has to do with your individual story. Maybe that's when it was supposed to happen. That fits your story the best, that
Yeah.
benefits you the most. So, but the idea is, I think when people are ready, they will turn on the radio and the information and all these abilities will come flooding in.
Yeah, beautiful. I just to wind up the show, Caroline, I ask people a few questions on the show that I'd love to ask you.
Yeah.
And the first one is, what does your morning routine look like?
Oh, so I'm a very slow riser. I'm not a morning person because I don't like to get up and go do stuff. I'm the opposite. So as soon as I wake up, I actually stay in bed and I do all my alignment.
Huh.
How do I feel? Well, actually, I do this also before going to sleep. I flush out everything that I may have picked up that I'm not aware of. You know, I mean, you pick up all kinds of stuff. So I flush out my system. And then the next morning, the same thing. I don't flush it out because I already did, but I say, I bring in the source energy, that meditation that I do it in my mind. And then I set the intent for the day. So, and I feel don't get up until I'm ready. So that's
Beautiful.
what I do.
Yeah, amazing. And so powerful, isn't it? If you could have dinner with anyone from any time frame, anywhere in the world, who would you think it might have been? Or even if you could have invited a couple of people to it. Is there anyone in particular that springs to mind?
I mean, I want to say Jesus, even though I'm not a Christian, like I'm not a, you know, like the religious Jesus, but it's just because I've kind of seen him all the time. It's kind of like he's kind of, that energy keeps showing up. So it would be interesting to see if he's a vegan like me or something like that.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough, mate. And with everything we've covered today, is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners to ponder on?
Again, I feel like it's especially nowadays with everything that's happening in the world, I feel like you can't rely on anybody. And I think the longer we wait, the more helpless we're going to feel. So I feel like take advantage of these crazy, strange times to take charge of your mind, to empower yourself and say, moving forward, I want to believe in myself. I want to create what I want to create, no matter what the world is doing. And these are the tools. These are, you know, this meditation, it's not about the piece of paper. It's not about the mask. It's about what you did to get there. And so that's what I would say. Now is the time. Do it. Don't wait. We need this empowerment state right now.
Beautiful. Couldn't agree more. And where can people go and watch the movie? Like where's
the best way is just to go to superhumanfilm.com. And then they'll see all the platforms listed there, superhumanfilm.com. And if they're interested in more energy medicine or anything like that, or consciousness work, they can go to carolinecory.com.
Beautiful. Caroline, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your time, and I certainly appreciate the task and the project you have embarked on to go and put a movie together as well, to put that out there into the world. So thank you for everything that you do, and you've certainly affected me in a way as well. So I'm very grateful. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, and you're also part of this journey. So thanks for doing what you do as well.
You're welcome.